Weeping in Lluidas Vale St. Catherine as a power couple is laid to rest. The wife died 2 days after her birthday, and the two got married 60 years ago, the same year Jamaica gained independence. Now, the details. They spent 60 years in marriage doing almost everything together. Working together, attending church together, having 4 children together, and eventually they are now buried together. That's among the reasons 91-year-old Nathan Leard and his 81-year-old wife Millicent have been described as a power couple. Mr. Leard passed away on November 21, 2022 during a protracted period of admission to Spanish Town Hospital in St. Catherine. His wife followed 3 weeks later on December 11, 2 days after she celebrated her birthday.
Oh, how sweet to rest in the arms of Jesus. Oh, how sweet to know I'm safe from all harm.
During the Thanksgiving service held for the couple on a sun-kissed Sunday, January 8, 2023, the congregation was told how Mrs. Leard reacted to her husband's passing. It is said that she was outside Spanish Town Hospital building, waiting for an opportunity to visit her husband, amid restrictions imposed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. She was brought there by her daughter, Junie Leard.
Because of the pandemic, the medical persons did not want Mama to come on the ward because Corona is contagious. But this particular day, she instructed Junie, me want go look for Nathan. Junie adhered to her instructions and took her to the hospital. Junie would have went onto the ward, and standing afar off, she observed Papa bed was empty. Everybody knows that Junie fool and love bad. Hell break loose to the hospital. But she decided that she can't make Mama know say she a bad and Papa dead. How is she going to tell Mama? She wipe her tears and come down. Mama say you can't hide nothing, Nathan dead. Junie said, how you know? Mama said one blind man that was on ward with Papa found out that the man where the amount heap of daughters them are come look for dead. I don't know how this man knows say Mama and Papa wife. And Mama had never gone to the hospital. She has never met this man. Don't ask me. But Mama held her composure and knew that the Lord would have called home her husband to rest.
The late Leards loved each other profoundly. They sealed their bond with marriage in 1962, the same year Jamaica gained independence from Great Britain. Although the marriage produced 4 children, Mr. Leard had 2 children previously and Mrs. Leard had 1.
I knew you said matrimony, Mama, but I didn't know you would take it this literal to be buried with your husband. You know, they both lived a beautiful life. When I said a beautiful life, I mean a beautiful life. Not many people had the chance to visit many other countries, but they did. Our predeceased son-in-law, Altondale, aka Devon, be his soul rest in peace. Mama and Papa, many of you guys might see them together a lot. Mama loved her husband. Yes, she was sick, but ever since my grandfather went into the hospital, it took a toll on her. You know, she couldn't stand the thoughts of my grandfather not sleeping next to her for so many years they've been together. The only time they were ever apart was when Papa was on farm work in West Palm Beach, Florida.
They also loved their God. They worshipped him devoutly for more than 50 years and were esteemed members of the Lluidas Vale Seventh-day Adventist Church in St. Catherine. It's the same church where their Thanksgiving service was held.
This church was one of their home. It was their playing ground. You know, many Saturdays, my grandmother, she was once appointed choir leader. You know, most Saturdays she stand here and she sing her heart out for the congregation. And one of the funniest thing is when she comes home after church, she would say, "Pitney, when you hear the alto, tell me how my son good. Lord God, be glad his son good."
Retired nurse Verna White Brown, with whom the late couple worshipped for several years, spoke glowingly of the Leards. She said Mrs. Leard was a dedicated woman who served the church in various capacities.
She served in the church as a choir director.
The late Mrs. Leard was also her church's community service leader, who spearheaded the community outreach programs, which included gathering groceries for the needy.
She was also a deaconess, head deaconess. This she did very well. For the last couple of years, she served as an investment secretary.
In relation to Mr. Leard, White Brown said he was jovial, adding that he always ensured that the churchyard was well kept. The late couple's religious disposition was not lost on all their children. One of their daughters, Junie Leard, who did a tribute during the funeral, recalled that her mother was the one who motivated her to give her life to the Lord nearly 10 years ago.
I must say today, I miss my father and miss my mother so much. But my mother, when I walk in this church, I walk with grief, I walk with pain, I walk with hills, and I walk with valley. And I was on the point of death because when I was in the house, I was dying. And I lay on the bed and I said, this is my last night. They have a crusade down here, and my mother said to me, why you not come out our house? You come out our house, man, and go down to church. Things will change for you. And I walk in this church here with death. And my mother said to me when I go home, Junie, if you try everything and everything fail you, try Jesus. And today, I'm happy in God. I'm rejoicing. I want to walk the pathway with my mother, but my mother said, you may not can take what I can take, but still on the journey, still walk because it's never easy. And today, I just want to say to everyone, I thank my mother so much. When I walk in this pool, my mother cried the living eye water and said, Junie, I am happy for you. I don't know how long I'm gonna live, you know, but I just want you to keep up with the church and be who you are, the loving person you are to me. And today I'm happy. I am happy 2013 when I walk in this church and get baptized. And I want to walk the pathway of my mother footprint and my father.
And she wants her relatives and friends to follow suit.
And today I'm telling everyone, if everything fails you, try Jesus. And today I am happy with my church families, every one of them from Charlton, Lindsay, everybody, I'm happy with them. And this song my mother told me, so she wanted to sing. But me and my mother was singing the song. When I started singing the song, she said, well, you sound like the Fierce Man. Yes, but I'm just wanted to just sing a little part with me now. The song is saying, going home, we are going home. There is nothing to hold us here. I have got a glimpse of my heavenly home. Praise God, I'm going home. And before I come, I just want to say to my two children and all my family, them, try Jesus. No matter what the circumstances, try Jesus. My mother said to me, Junie, If it's even in the kitchen, I want to see you.
A granddaughter of the late Leards, Dacia McLean, did the remembrance. She shared vivid memories of how her grandparents loved and trusted each other.
I saw Papa as a man who provides for his family. A man who trusts and believes. When I say believes, I mean believe in his wife. Papa allowed Mama to handle all his finances. Mama was that person who you could trust with $1 million, and she would not take $1 for it. Her daughter, Thelma Dale, who people might know as Telly, can attest to that. Telly proudly brag to people that my mom built my house, and I see where every dollar go. She was that honest. And to say the least, it rubs off on all our grandkids and our daughters, because one thing for sure, one thing for certain, one thing she teaches us to always be honest. Never ever touch what doesn't belong to you.
The granddaughter further indicated that Mrs. Leard was highly considerate and selfless.
My grandmother was a person who loved to see people succeed. If you ever called Mama and said, Mama, I'm sending money for you, she would say, Pitney girl, nobody stress yourself, man, me all right. She rather add to you than to ever take from you. Her grandkids, her pride and joy, rather their pride and joy. One of the very last conversation I had with my grandmother was on her birthday, 2 days before she passed on December 9th. And I was bothering her and I was nagging her and I was like, Mama, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, Mama, you want KFC? She said, no, Pitney girl, me no want nothing. Only thing I want is the undying love of Jesus Christ. Amen. And some soup water.
With the senior Lairds gone, life, understandably, will never be the same again, not only for their children, but also for their grandchildren and other relatives.
It's very hard to stand here and watch my two grandparents laying lifeless in a casket. You know, life won't be the same without them, you know. I always proudly tell people my grandmother's prayer was what keeping us together, you know. She was a praying grandmother. She would wake up 5 a.m. in the morning, and I don't know how she remember, but she called out every Grand Pitney, every great Grand Pitney name.
Before Mr. and Mrs. Leard became one, they were total strangers who migrated separately to Lluidas Vale District, St. Catherine. Mrs. Leard, affectionately called Millie, is originally from Uotan District, also in St. Catherine.
Millicent Lewis, affectionately called Millie and Mama, was born on the 9th of December 1941 to Tilda Marshall and Sidney Lewis in Ivory District, Uotan, in the parish of St. Catherine. She was the first of 5 children for her father, but was the only child for her mother, who predeceased her in 2016. Millie's early education began at the Ivory Infant and Primary School.
After reluctantly relocating to Lluidas Vale when she was 13 years old, Mrs. Leard was enrolled at the primary school in that community. Mrs. Leard, after leaving school, gave birth to her first child, a son who died eventually. Her relationship with that child's father also died. Sometime later, Mrs. Leard met and fell in love with Nathan Leard, whom she met in Lluidas Vale.
Not long after, the union welcomed their first child, Donna. At the time of her birth, Millie was 20 years old. Their love could not be confined to one child. A year later, another girl, Junie, joined the union. Before giving birth to Junie, Millie and Nathan were convinced that their love was divinely ordained. They got married in 1962.
Mrs. Leard was not one to sit and twiddle her thumbs. She worked to help support her family.
Her quest earned her a job with the Smalling family, who had resided at Lluidas Vale, Worthy Park at the time. The Smallings were blessed to have had Millie as their housewife. They enjoyed authentic country cooking, neatly ironed clothing, and a well-kept house. Years later, the Smallings decided to relocate to Kingston. It was prudent of them to have expressed their willingness to have Millie join them. However, being the family-oriented person she was, she politely declined the Smallings' offer, as it would have deprived her of the opportunity to care for her husband and her children. Since she is no longer employed with the Smallings, she used her entrepreneurial skill to sew various baby clothing. As she dedicated more time to sewing, she also decided to expand her business beyond the boundaries of Lluidas Vale. She secured a location at the Linstead Market where she sold for over 3 years.
Mrs. Leard, a lover of roast breadfruit and curried chicken, was also remembered as a strict disciplinarian.
Millie was a caring mother who loved her children unconditionally. This, however, did not mean that she would save the rod and spoil any of them. She was a disciplinarian. An example of this, Donna had misbehaved hours before bedtime, not having the opportunity to effect discipline then and there. It would be reasonable for Donna to think Millie had forgotten. Unfortunately for her, at 4 o'clock the following morning, Millie used a well-lit lamp and searched the bed to differentiate Donna from her other siblings. And oh yes, Donna had gotten a fine whipping.
In her latter years, Mrs. Leard, like her husband, was slowed by illness.
For the past 35 years, she had experienced hypertension and heart-related issues. These have worsened with the passing of her husband of 60 years on November 21, 2002 at the Spanish Town Hospital. Her health continued to deteriorate since December 11, 2022. She made her transition at the Linstead Hospital shortly after meeting with a few family members. Grief-stricken by her passing, 4 daughters, 17 grandchildren, 26 great-grandchildren, 1 great-great-grandchild, other members of her biological family, and church family and friends.
I am strong, and I know you're stronger. You raise me up to more than I can be. Rest in peace, Mama. I love you.
In one of the 2 eulogies presented at the funeral, family friend Fitzroy Bennett took the congregation several miles away to the parish of Hanover. That's where Mr. Leard was born and raised. He attended Anchovy Elementary School in the neighboring parish of St. James.
Whilst living in Hanover, Papa saw the need to seek employment, but it was a no-show in Hanover. So he was reliably informed of a district called Lluidas Vale in the parish of St. Catherine. This noble district that some of us don't like, some of you, but Papa would have traversed from Hanover to come here to find greener grass. In so doing, he was employed at the Worthy Park Sugar Estate, where he worked assiduously as a cane cutter. Mas Nathan, having come to Lluidas Vale, was given one of the Worthy Park residence at India. He lived there for many years, and then he moved to Savannah. Almost every evening, Mas Nathan would sit on the piazza of the bank in Lluidas Vale Square with his friends.
Bennett further stated that Mr. Leard, also called Papa, was a caring father and grandfather.
When it comes on to money, and I know that most of us as men will not be in agreement with this. Papa tell himself, man don't know if he spend money. A woman know if he spend money. So when he would have gotten his envelope at Worthy Park, Papa not even pull that. Carry go home and hand it to Birdie. Mama would have been very upset with him. I said, Nathan, are you worth the money man you're supposed to take out for you? He said, no. You give me what you want to give me. The children them nothing go to their bed hungry. He was a farmer. And he would have tilled the soil and produced yam, bananas, dashing, cocoa. And if I even for crush church or for make provision, for make salty, pot a cook, he was a great provider. He fell ill. This did not deter his faith in the Lord. He was hospitalized.
I'll be grieving because I'm leaving. I will cry when I say goodbye. There'll be no weeping. Where I'm going to that mansion way up in the sky.
I never got the chance to meet Brother Leard, but I met Sister Leard. Are you with me? Yes. And the time I spent interacting with her has been pleasant.
The Leard's story of respect and love has not only left a lasting impression on the people who knew them well. Dean Thompson, who recently became pastor of the church that the late couple attended, said he too is impressed.
When you find a couple where both of them encourage each other, inspire each other unto goodness, unto godliness, it is something worth talking about. Are you with me? It is something worth admiring. It is something that is worth striving for to achieve in one's life. I believe Brother and Sister Leard, together they form a power couple. Are you with me? Yes. And as we listen to the tributes that have gone, there are people who believe in honesty. There are people who believe in upright living. There are people of sound moral. What do you say? And brothers and sisters, this is something that every one of us should seek to pattern, especially the next generation, their children and grandchildren.
What a meeting, what a greeting upon that golden shore. What a meeting, what a greeting, what a greeting when we meet to part no more.
Other persons who participated in the Thanksgiving service included the late couple's granddaughters, who read the first and second Bible lessons. There was also a tribute by the combined choir from the Lluidas Vale and Charlton Seventh-day Adventist churches. An in-law of the late Leards, Thelka Williams Thompson, read the vote of thanks on behalf of one of the couple's daughters, Maria Leard, who was unable to attend the funeral. In the vote of thanks, Maria spoke highly of her parents. At the end of the proceedings at the church, it was time for interment at the nearby Lluidas Vale Cemetery. Some members of the family, who cried intermittently during the Thanksgiving service, wept while the caskets were being removed from the church to the hearses. Eventually, the pallbearers got space to work, removing Mrs. Leard's casket first. And then they removed Mr. Leard. When they reached the cemetery, the pattern held, Mrs. Leard out first. Mr. Laird's casket was also brought to the graveside.
We can't do nothing about it. Anything God do is well done. 2 minutes to view.
Relatives and friends watched as the power couple was lowered into the graves built beside each other.
Hurt to hurt. Take your time. Take your time. Move fast, watch it. And dust to do. That's why I'm strong. Yeah. 2 minutes. Right.
Mama, love you,
Brethren, I don't want to have you to be ignorant at this time concerning them who are asleep. That is or not, even as others who have no hope. For if you believe that Jesus Christ died and rose again, even them also which sleep with Jesus will he bring when he come at the second time. So the two tenderly come into his body again to the earth. Earth to earth. Ashes to ashes, and dust to dust. And a sure hope of resurrection. No. To my right.
But I can do without you. God in my heart, I've been so free to me. And so into me. I love him. I give us the victory.
Some sweet day, I'm going away. Gonna leave this world, no more to roam. I'm going away. Something in my heart like a stream running down. It makes me feel so happy as can be.
The graves eventually were sealed. In Lluidas Vale Cemetery, St. Catherine, this is the Jamaica Beacon.